Well, if you didn't think the NBA playoffs were boring enough as they were, now you don't get to sit there and either root for or root against LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, because LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers lost their first round series to the Phoenix Suns. Down goes the champs. Down go the Lakers. Yikes. Little surprising, but maybe not, but almost kind of a surreal feeling. I certainly know that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, the league offices, the television networks, certainly feeling some type of way right now because they're staring down the barrel of potentially some type of final series that might be the Milwaukee Bucks versus the frickin' the Jazz or the Suns or the frickin' Nuggets, or maybe they'll get lucky and they'll get Brooklyn in there, so at least thank God they'll get the New York market and they'll get some level of star power with Durant and Irving and Harden. But yeah, not good for the league, because while LeBron hasn't exactly been a ratings boom, that's for damn sure, you could at least say you can expect ratings to go down still even more when LeBron's not playing, the Lakers aren't in the playoffs, and that is absolutely true. But we're really kind of in, feels like, uncharted territory here, because for the first time in his career, he's had seasons where he didn't make the playoffs, but I believe this is the first time in his career that LeBron James was bounced in the first round of the playoffs. That Western Conference is a bitch, ain't it? Whew. And you know, what it does is something like this happens, like this is notable. It involves the game's preeminent signature marquee iconic player. He is the face of the league. He is the NBA franchise, even at age 36. It's spawning all types of discussion and conversation about what this first round loss means for LeBron James and his legacy. And, you know, my simple answer to this is it doesn't change shit. And here's why. If you're a LeBron stan, a LeBron lover, he lost in the playoffs. Shit happens. You're going to point to the fact that he didn't have his top running mate, Anthony Davis, with him. How many other guys are going to sit there and be able to persevere and overcome that when they're injured themselves to win a series, let alone a championship? Who's going to do that? Really? Seriously? And then they're going to point to the fact that, well, even with all the injuries and everything else, they still got into the playoffs. They won the play-in game. You know, you're talking about LeBron at 36, still is a top player in the league, even though he has clearly taken a step back, and he was playing, you can tell, not quite 100% in the playoffs, which all of that is true. They're going to point to the fact that this is a dude that's won 4 NBA championships, and that has to mean something, and he's done it with 3 different organizations, and last season he brought a championship back to the Lakers, and he did all of that. Like, if you're a LeBron fan, you're a LeBron stan, you know, you're going to sit there and pretty much ignore this, because you've got other things you can point to, and they are certainly valid. And if you are a LeBron hater and you like to call him LaFlop James or LaFraud James, this is just going to be even more proof to you of things that you already believe. You're going to say, well, shit. Now he goes to the tougher conference, and look at that. His ass can't get out of the first round. You played all those years in the East. You couldn't hide forever, bitch. They're going to point to the fact of, well, you know, it was the Suns, and yeah, they're a pretty good team, but damn. Like, you're still the dude. You're supposed to be the icon. You're supposed to be the alpha. Whether Anthony Davis went down or not, you should still be going down swinging, and you should stop being so damn deferential and so damn timid and passive when your team really needs you to. Stop padding the fucking stat sheet so your performance looks a whole lot better than it actually is. They're going to point to, well, he lost in the first round now, and you're just going to get all this other shit. You get the reminders of, you know, all the NBA Finals losses, and, oh, he went and created his own running super team with fucking AD, got his buddy there, got all this personnel power, and built a team that couldn't defend their championship successfully. All of that is true. So, I mean, what is the real impact here on his legacy? Because let's be honest. Like, LeBron James is still an icon of the league. And when you talk about it, like, you have stars, all-stars, superstars, and then you have icons. Whether you like them or not, it does not matter. LeBron James is in that pantheon in NBA history of global league icons. Face of the league. He took that mantle from Kobe, who took that mantle from Jordan, who took that mantle from Magic and Bird and Dr. J, and who took that mantle from guys like Jerry West and Wilt Chamberlain, who took that mantle from George Mikan. Like, you know, you say what you want, but it's a pretty damn exclusive list. There aren't that many guys in the history of the NBA that have been that type of dude. LeBron is one of them. And yeah, I agree, like, there are pieces about him that annoy the shit out of me. Like sitting there talking about, well, we beat the 73-win Warriors, they're 3-1, it makes me the GOAT. Like, what a self-serving piece of crap. And totally invalid, totally stupid reason to be pumping yourself up as the GOAT. And you look at, you know, his finals record, everything else, and, you know, it feels like ESPN and others in the media that have this certain pro-LeBron bias that they have to push because it's good for business. And if you can't see it, I don't know what your fucking problem is. Same thing, there was pro-media bias for Kobe. There was pro-Jordan bias during his time. You're going to sit there, you even see editions of basketball cards that Michael Jordan's having a shot made on him or Michael Jordan's getting dunked on and they airbrush Jordan out. Like, come on. If you can't recognize or understand or appreciate the fact that it is somewhat in the best interest of the league to protect some of these guys, and in the media, especially the media that has to cover them, report them, and ultimately pays a lot of money to show these games, like, they're not going to go out of their way to tear these fucking guys down. It's always been that way. It's the way it has to be, especially when you're talking about the icon of the league. You know, and just keep in mind, it's really tough to win championships. Even when you talk about, well, super team, this and that, you know, getting Anthony Davis in a trade where you had to give up a ton of pieces and surrounding it with a bunch of role players, it's not really building a super team. It's not. It's more in line with the traditional type of team structure that you would see for a championship team or a potential dynasty. It's also something to say that LeBron James, his career trajectory in terms of what he could do on the court is only going to decline from here on out. We have to get used to that. Like, he's at the tail end of his career. He's probably hanging around just long enough to try and play with Bronny, and that's about it. You're talking about maybe, 3 to 5 years here? Now, how much he declines remains to be seen, but he still plays at an incredibly high level. He really does. And I worry sometimes, similar with Kobe and similar with other guys, that it could be far easier to knock them and make fun of them, and I'm certainly guilty myself sometimes, that we don't appreciate what we've got when we've got it. And in some ways, yes, we should. Now, that's not me saying you shouldn't be able to criticize or point out flaws in somebody's game or how they play or anything. That's not true. It's just sometimes I think we get too worried about the MJ versus LeBron debate or the LeBron versus Kobe debate, whatever the fuck, and we get too focused on the negatives and tit for tat, and we lose sight of the greater talent that we're seeing here. It's really hard to win a championship. It's really hard to repeat. It's really hard to repeat when Anthony Davis misses extended periods of time and then goes down to the playoffs. It's really hard to repeat when LeBron James is down for an extended period of time during the season, most of the second half of the season, if I remember correctly. It's really, really hard to compete and win another championship in that type of environment, especially when you're the 7th seed. You haven't played together a lot throughout the year. Like, you're still trying to find your rhythm and your chemistry and your flow as a team, and you're trying to do that during the fucking playoffs. Even if Anthony Davis and LeBron James are both healthy during this series against the Suns, there's no guarantee that they freaking win it. Now, I think it is certainly valid to point out, like in Game 5, LeBron walking off to the locker room halfway through the fourth quarter. Like, that's one of the things that is irredeemably bad about LeBron. Like, sometimes he just gives up. He has that history. He absolutely does. His first run in Cleveland, gave up. When they got to Miami in the 2014 finals, he gave up. The end of his Cleveland run, gave up. A couple seasons ago when the Lakers weren't going to make the playoffs, gave up. Here, felt like he gave up. Game 6, when he needed to come out and be the alpha dog early, especially when Anthony Davis couldn't go anymore. Like, he was way too fucking passive. Who are you passing off to? You're the franchise. You're the icon. You're the fucking legend of the league. You need to go down and go down swinging. And far too often, he has more of a Kevin Garnett type of mindset in terms of not wanting to sit there and truly be the alpha, just stuff the stat sheet, as opposed to being that MJ Kobe type of alpha. Like, these are things that I knock him for. But I don't think this series changes anything one way or another. If you're a LeBron fan or LeBron stan, you have plenty of things that you can defend or excuse or justify here. If you're a LeBron hater, or you're like me, maybe more annoyed sometimes with some of the shit that comes in relation to LeBron, like, you got all the validation you need. This is just another feather in the cap, so to speak. But the reality is, it doesn't change his legacy at all. He's still got 4 fucking rings, and you might not like the approach. I don't always like the approach, but the bottom line is he won 4 rings. He's playing like a fucking 2 handfuls worth of NBA finals. Like, that's really hard to be that dude for that long, for that sustained period. I don't give a shit how you do it, by hook or by crook. This is still one of the greatest players in NBA history. One of the true legends of the game. One of the icons of the game. I don't always think that's a great thing. No, I don't. Is he one of my favorites of all time? Absolutely not. But I can't take away from what he did, because he did it. You know, Jordan doesn't win any of his 6 rings without Scottie Pippen or Horace Grant or fucking Dennis Rodman for the second three-peat. Kobe doesn't win any championships without Shaq or guys like Gasol and Bynum. You know, Shaq doesn't win any championships without Kobe, or in Miami with Dwayne Wade. Like, even when you say, you point to maybe somebody like a Dirk Nowitzki and you say, well, he made it to 2 finals as the only superstar in his team, and he won a championship as the only superstar in his team, but you had a solid core around him. You know, Hakeem in those 94-95 Rockets had a solid core around him. In the second championship, they brought in Clyde Drexler with a midseason trade. So the point I'm getting at is, you can't win a championship all by yourself. And it's really, really hard to defend a championship, really, really hard to repeat, especially when the dude that honestly is the most important and most valuable player to the Lakers, who is Anthony Davis, is out for some of the series and isn't there for the critical Game 6. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? Like, the reality is, LeBron could have scored 45 and been the alpha and been aggressive, and the Lakers probably still lose Game 6 to the Suns. It might change the way we view it and say, damn it, at least he's trying to carry his team. At least he is trying to be that dude instead of just kind of blending in and going with the flow and doing, whatever. But yeah, this doesn't change his legacy one bit. He's got too many other things on the resume, too many other accomplishments, too many other championships and other notable things. Like, this doesn't matter, and depending upon your perspective, doesn't change your opinion on him one damn bit.